past president and club secretary of the club, Radhika Pradhan. So, Anuradha ji, then I will read out, because most others are not here, so I will read out the names of the birthday boys and birthday girls. On 11 January, we have birthday, that's tomorrow only, Darshan, son of Dr. Ashok Dave. Then on 12th January, we have Rotarian Lakshmi Chetalaji himself. Then on 12th, we have the birthday of Kalpana, spouse of Rotarian Piyush Sheth. Then on 14th, we have birthday of Prakash, spouse of Rotarian Kalpana Vasa. On 17th, we have birthday of Vikal, son of Rotarian Kalpana Vasa. So Kalpana Vasa has 2 birthdays. Then on 26th January, we have Rotarian Vijayaraman's birthday. 22nd. On 23rd, we have birthday of Rupa, spouse of Rotarian Paresh Mehta. I'm sure Dr. Savita will convey singing partner. Then on 24th, we have birthday of Swati, daughter of Rotarian Ramesh Mistri. On 23rd, we have again birthday of Anushka, daughter of Rotarian Vivek Gurkhe. Normally, he used to come today in the PPC celebrating. Then on 25th, we have birthday of directly Rotarian past president Ravi Shindeji, who actually takes care of our club as one of his senior activities. Then on 26th, we have birthday of Rotarian Jayashree Dand. On 27th, we have birthday of Rotarian Ravi Doshi. He's a good sports organizer, I hope he will take it up this year too. Then we have birthday of C.P. Bhatia, Rotarian. Then on 29th, we have birthday of Nishita, daughter of Rotarian Harish Vadodara. He also used to normally come. Then on 29th, we have birthday of Kriti, daughter of Rotarian C.P. Bhatia. Anniversary May 23rd January, we have Rotarian Dr. Reena and Dr. Yogesh Mehta. Another anniversary is on 25th of Monica and Rotarian Apurva Shah. These are the birthdays. Then shall we go to the next one? The next in the agenda, basically I want to announce a very pleasant news. For example, Sunil Puranik has been carrying out a vocational project. It was very successful yesterday and today he has done it for underprivileged girls. So
ladies.
With great
Underprivileged ladies.
Underprivileged ladies. So ladies, very good. So we give a
Thank you.
one thing, then okay, we shall have more and more activities in due course. Then one news is Rotaract, the current secretary Dia has become president-elect. So Dia, congratulations. Then we shall go ahead with the next item. I request Dr. Savita to give an introduction about the speaker of the day.
Hello, good evening everybody. So today we have Dr. Anuradha Chaudhary as an eminent personality amongst ourselves. We welcome you, ma'am, on behalf of Rotary Club of Mumbai Ghatkopar, and all the Rotaract Club representatives are also there along with many Rotarians. So this is just a gist. There are so many achievements and information about her, but however she has given us so that it can be shortened into at least 4 to 5 minutes. So here we go. Dr. Anuradha Chaudhary is presently the coordinator for the Indian Knowledge Systems Division of the Ministry of Education at AICTE, New Delhi, and a faculty at the Department of Humanities and Social Sciences, as well as a member of the Reiki Center of Excellence for the Science of Happiness at the Indian Institute of Technology, Kharagpur. She teaches Sanskrit and Heritage, Indian Psychology, French and History of Science and Technology in Ancient India. After graduating from the Sri Aurobindo International Center of Education, she went on to get her PhD in Sanskrit on Vedic Psychology from Pondicherry University and was awarded the Erasmus Mundus Scholarship of the EU for an MLit in Crossways in European Humanities. She also received a UN-related scholarship for a course on human rights at the Summer University of Human Rights, Geneva. She worked on the Indian concepts of happiness as a fellow at the Development Foundation, Bangalore, and established the Center for Indian Psychology, Jain University, Bangalore, which sought to establish an alternative paradigm for psychology based on the Indic worldview. She is also an online instructor for yogaanytime.com and NPTEL as a resource person for teaching spoken Sanskrit, yoga psychology, and about the transformative power of mantras. Isn't it interesting?
Yes.
Besides this, she has done sessions for Auroville International, Netherlands, the School of Practical Philosophy and Economic Sciences in UK, Ireland and Australia, Ojai Yoga Crit, USA, Theosophical Society, Ojai Blavili, the European Union of Yoga, ZINAL, where along with Dr. Vinaya Chandra, she was invited as the guest of honor. Together they teach at several other academic institutions and other organizations across the globe. So we have here a global personality who is a perfect Indian figure who is representing and helping the world to achieve all the powers that our Vedic India had, right? So we are really blessed to have her here today. Furthermore, they have founded the Ritambara Yogashala, co-edited a book titled Perspectives on Indian Psychology, and co-authored another titled Happiness, Indian Perspectives. In 2019, she received the Excellent Young Teachers Award at IIT Kharagpur, something indeed great. For the last 2 years, Dr. Vinay Chandra and she have organized the first ever online 41 days long global festival of yoga, celebrating wellness with Indica Yoga starting on 21st June 2020, which hosted around 124 yoga teachers, practitioners, researchers, etc. worldwide, reaching out to over 50 countries, as well as another month-long one that started on 21st June 2021, that is our International Yoga Day. Together, they have offered several workshops, courses, and events worldwide for the national and global yoga communities. So this is just a gist. We want to know more when she speaks to us. This is all about you in short. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you
The
very much.
dais is yours. Thank you.
So, Mahodaye, Bhavati Sambhashanam Karoti.
Hello.
Yes. You may have this will be suitable to you.
This will be suitable because it comes I don't mind using this, I'll use my hands.
Yes. Then fine. You may have this as an option.
Yes.
Yes. Actually, live streaming is going on.
Okay. So, all right. So, Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha, Sabha Sadhyo Namaha. So, I'd like to start by offering my humble gratitude and thank you to Tyagaraja ji, the president of the Rotary Club here, for having invited me to be part of this evening's sharing with the young Rotaracts. That's the big crowd that I see here. So thank you very much for this opportunity of talking to the next generation of our country, the future of our country, with a matter as important as the role of Sanskrit and how NGOs can play an important role in promoting that. I would also like to thank Savitaji for a very generous introduction, and also to ma'am and to everybody here for allowing me to share a few thoughts with you on a busy evening, on a busy Tuesday evening. So thank you for making the time, and I will try in my own way to help you appreciate why what I'm going to share is something that needs serious consideration. So the topic, as I said, the topic that I said is on the role of NGOs in the promotion of Sanskrit. And I will try and do this in a Sanskrit style. The Sanskrit language, the Indian tradition itself had certain ways in which we presented topics to our audience. So there is a concept called Anubandha Chatushtayam. There are 4 requirements. So when a text was written, there were 4 things that they took into consideration always. So these 4 things are, one is Adhikari, who is the recipient of the book that is going to be written or the talk that is being given. So who is the recipient? So the Adhikari. Adhikari, the word Adhikari is not in the modern terms of whose right it is. The term Adhikari implies who is meritorious, who has the inherent eligibility or capacity to grasp what is being presented also. So that is the original concept of the word Adhikari. Second, Vishaya. What is the topic that is going to be discussed? So the topic is Sanskrit, as we see. The third one is Prayojanam. What is the need for doing this presentation here? And finally, what is the Sambandha? What is the relationship between these 3 aspects? So there is Adhikari, tell me, Adhikari, Vishaya, Prayojanam, and Sambandha. Okay, this is known as Anubandha Chatushtayam when writing a text or presenting any topic. This is a very important idea to grasp. And this, as I said, one of the fantastic features of the Bharatiya civilization is that they were able to capture some very simple frameworks of action through these small formulae. So if you remember the concept of Anubandha Chatushtayam, you will find its application in anything you do. It can be a Rotary Club, in which case whatever action you're doing, you have to see who is the recipient of whatever you're trying to do, what is the topic that you're trying to present, what is the need for it, and how are you connecting all of them. So it's a very simple framework, but it's a very, very effective framework for us to think systematically about making our content important to the persons we are presenting it to. Okay, so in the given topic that I have, so we have, the first one is Adhikari. So we are looking at the NGOs. So when we are talking of NGOs, first and foremost, we realize that we are not talking of the places that the government has reached. The government is the formal system setup that is there. In research, there is a very interesting concept that is there. There is a concept called archival silence. So when you are doing research, you go to look at documents, right? You go to look at documents that have been archived about data here and data there. So a very interesting idea there is the concept of archival silence. Means who has not been represented and why not? Even data. So when government collects data, there is some data that you don't get to know of. There is a selected data that is presented. So who are those people who have been left out of the mainstream data that we are all meant to consume? The NGO's role is precisely to reach out to all those sectors that are not covered by the government frameworks. Alright, so it really is very often going into the grassroots, into those areas, often also the neglected ones that need more attention. So that's the role of the NGOs generally. The second one is the Vishaya, which is Sanskrit, the promotion of Sanskrit. The Vishaya is not just Sanskrit. The Vishaya or the subject, the topic at hand, is the promotion of Sanskrit, the systematic taking the role of these NGOs in promotion of Sanskrit. and the prayojanam is why should one do it. Alright, so before I continue, this is something that I like to do. I know that I am here to do the lecture, but I'd love to hear from you as to why would you think it is important or not important for an NGO to promote Sanskrit in the grassroots? First of all, is Sanskrit important and relevant in today's context? Yes. Alright. I'll take the question one step even before that, as to what is the role of language. I'm touching upon the prayojanam part of it here, because the question itself was, what is why should one invest in the promotion of Sanskrit in the way that we're discussing it now? So, what is the role of language is the first thing that we need to understand. What is the role of language? Communication is the first and foremost. Next. So, if you say communication, then why would Sanskrit be important? What would be a more practical thing to invest on? If communication is the only thing, what would technically be more important to invest on?
From past ancient times, Sanskrit was the first language spoken and then Hindi came.
Yes. So communication. But if you're talking of communication, how many people today communicate in Sanskrit? Relatively small. So if you go to the people and say, we come here to promote Sanskrit and all that, will they buy it? No, they will say, khana pina, give me something where I can earn my living, right? So you will find a roadblock automatically there. So communication, while that is one of the most important roles of language in general, in the context of Sanskrit, we have to say, okay, let's hold that. Okay, that might not be the most important reason why Sanskrit, at the face value of it, is important. Alright, what is the other role of language? Vedas, alright? Structured grammar, that's about the language, the nature of the language, the characters. What other thing? What other thing does a language do?
Tongue exercise.
Tongue exercise, brilliant. I will come upon that. You won't even understand to what extent the tongue does gymnastics with Sanskrit. Okay, what else?
It encourages you to stick to your roots.
Stick to your roots. How?
Because you're not forgetting your culture and just focusing on the Western.
And therefore the role of language with culture?
Yeah.
What is the role of language? I want you to make that connection. Sambandha.
The role of language with
In,
culture.
what does language do for culture?
Like you represent where you belong to.
Yes. Tell me one more. I'm looking for a word. Let me see if you can catch it.
Civilization.
Civilization, yes. What is language doing for
Enriches.
culture?
Enrichment.
What do you find? Why should you study Sanskrit then? What will you get by studying Sanskrit?
Unification.
Huh?
Unification.
Unification, yes. What else?
Connection with the past.
Connection with the past in what way? In documentation. So language plays a very important role in recording and documenting culture. And because it has a role in documenting culture, it becomes an important tool to acquire, so that you have the keys to this vast treasure trove of knowledge. And when we're looking at the Sanskritic knowledge tradition, what is this treasure trove? Like, how ancient is this knowledge that we're looking at? How many years old? Yes?
Ancient.
Minimum, so we are talking, if it's a very not unconservative thing, then we're looking at almost 10,000 years at least, but very conservative estimates, at least 5,000 years. 5,000 years of very systematized knowledge tradition across various domains of life have been kept in the Sanskrit literature. To what extent today we have anything between 4 million to 30 million manuscripts that are lying in different parts of the world that are yet to be tapped into. And of those, at least 10% is purely scientific material. Okay, so that's the extent of knowledge that is there. Alright. Having said that, we know that this country was on top of the world's GDP. We have 24% of the world's GDP for 2,000 years. Now just think about it. For a civilization to be so high on prosperity, to have such a big percentage of the world's prosperity, can it happen in thin air? How can a nation acquire that prosperity? What would be the basis for them acquiring that prosperity? Knowledge. They've had to think very, very deeply in detail and have that in an interrelated manner so that everything holds and supports the system to last for 2000 years. And then of course it's a different story that the British came and they said that everything that has been in the Sanskrit tradition is trash, so dump it. We'll give you English education, and with English education there are no Sanskrit texts available in English then in that manner. So we teach foreign content, so European knowledge, European values, European thoughts, and that has continued in the education system even after that, right? So this is the reason why in today's context also we have so little understanding about what was there. So today's civilization as we stand today, we are not standing on the shoulders of our forefathers. We are standing on the shoulders of Europe's forefathers. Alright, and considering that the civilization had at least 5,000 years of vast knowledge traditions, has all been buried under the sand. And we are now just scratching the surface. And even in that scratching of the surface, like yoga is just one of those traditions that has managed to stay alive, and it is not just staying alive, it is thriving and taking over the world in a manner that is unprecedented. The next tradition that we have is Ayurveda. Again, all of these traditions, what happens down the line is that when, let's say, foreigners take up the study of, anyone who is not familiar with the culture takes up the study of Sanskrit, takes up the study of yoga. Sooner or later you realize that the original texts are in Sanskrit. But when you're reading a translation, in one text you will find it translated in one way, in another text you will find it translated in another way, in a third text you have a third translation. Now if you really want to know what the meaning is, what would you do? What would be an intelligent thing to do? To learn Sanskrit. Because if you learn Sanskrit, then you go directly to the source. Otherwise, you're forever dependent on somebody else to tell you what is in those texts. And still you'll be guessing. Even that you won't know for sure. And then you have other sets of people who come and misinterpret it. In fact, that was the reason why Sanskrit was learned. This is important for us as Indians to understand some of the strategies that were consciously played out to undermine the civilization. Okay, so one of the strategies was to change the medium of instruction to English. I'm talking to you in English. That's the good thing and that's the bad thing also. But the fact is that by converting our medium of communication into a foreign one, we kept aside the mass population that was otherwise an educated population. But suddenly we had only those, if you go to school, you speak English, you are an educated person, everybody else is a barefoot. No, but so what happens, you learn in school and you, when you go back home, you go back to an unpad house. So these kind of mentalities then corroded the confidence levels of the people. They disrupted relationships. The respect levels changed. So suddenly we looked up to the Gora man and we did a salute and people at the home were not glamorous enough for us. So these are all very subconscious ways of undermining the self-confidence and the self-esteem of a people, which we haven't unfortunately got out of even today. So the whole point is, how do we start finding that again? I just have a small request, please. Can you stay off your phones, the Rotaracts there? If you don't mind, can you try and listen? Alright? Because if you don't listen, you won't even know what this is all about. Right? So, fine. So as I was saying here, that therefore, what they did is they undermined the civilization, and one of the important ways in which we can start getting it back, as you can imagine, is to again take ownership of that language, which is the direct, the biggest key to that treasure of knowledge that had allowed us to be at the level that we were, at the state of the Vishwa Guru that we had. Because during that time, the kind of universities that were there, Nalanda, just in fact yesterday, we were listening to one of the Consul Generals telling us, from the Consul General of Indonesia was telling us, he said that uh, when Buddhist scholars from Southeast Asia wanted to come to Nalanda, and Nalanda had about 10,000 uh, students studying there, resident students studying there. So when the students had to come, they have texts there that say that they must stop at Vijaya. Sri Vijaya was their kingdom in Indonesia. They said people should come and stop there and for 2 years learn Sanskrit before they go on to India. So it was a cosmopolitan language. It was not just, so there is this idea that Sanskrit was never a spoken language. But we see from these texts that Sanskrit was not just a spoken language of this land, but it was very much a spoken language of Southeast Asia as well, for communities that were seeking knowledge. Okay, so these are certain reasons why. So the prayojana for learning Sanskrit are that as a civilization, if we want to get back the pride of our nation, to get back a sense of self-esteem of what does it mean to be a Bharatiya. So if I can just again pause here and take one or two answers. When we say Bharatiya, I'm just curious, so I'm placing this question before you. If you say I am a Bharatiya and I am an Indian, does it feel the same or does it mean different things for you?
Different.
It feels different. So what is that? What is the difference? If you say I am an Indian and I am a Bharatiya, what is the difference? Bataiye. Tell me.
Indian is like Hindustani and Bharatiya, what is it?
The Sanskrit. Okay. All right. Anybody?
Ma'am?
Yes.
Yeah. Indian, I'm an Indian means I stay in India, I'm born and brought up in India. So Bharatiyans, I represent my culture, language, ethics and my values.
Excellent. Anybody has a different opinion on that? Another way of looking at it or presenting it?
Bharatiya is connected with Bharat.
Bharata. Yes.
Bharat Chakra Raja.
Satyam. Satyam. So there is a whole history. Huh? It's not just we are people after 1947. It's not 75 years of independence that we are celebrating. The moment we say that we are a Bharatiya, it's not only this land that we are seeing, we are associated with this culture that was not just limited to this landmass, but that spread across Southeast Asia, that went northwest to many places, and that inspired traders across the world, knowledge seekers across the world to seek this land. So Bharata, light, and Ratha means immersed. So this was a land that was immersed in light, and we are, when we say I am a Bharatiya, it means that I am a person who is immersed, who belongs to that land immersed in light. I mean, this is a huge thing if you just think of it. Okay, so when we say that I am a Bharatiya, and therefore the language that allows us to tap into that wealth of Bharatam is the Sanskrit language. Swami Vivekananda very powerfully says, he says, you of the lower caste, I tell you, because this society, unfortunately, is also a very stratified society. Because of certain historical reasons, because of certain cultural, socio-cultural reasons, whatever the reasons are. It's another story that we need to understand what it was all about, because we don't even have a good understanding of what the systems were. I will, if I have the time, I'll possibly explain, but trying to stick to the topic that has been given to me and about why it is important for NGOs to spread Sanskrit education to the grassroots of this land. One of the prayojanas is something that Swami Vivekananda answers very powerfully. He says, you of the lower caste, I tell you, the only way to improve your condition is to study Sanskrit. He says, why do you not study Sanskrit? Why do you not spend millions to spread Sanskrit education in all castes of India? One of the reasons for the stratification, the difference of social stratification, is also because of a so-called hierarchy based on certain textual misrepresentations is what I would say. Okay. Because people did not also have direct access to that language, those who had access possibly perpetrated certain differences which could be understood differently if one had direct access to the text. Just, I will get into it because it's going that way. So this whole concept of the Varnashrama, so the caste system that we say. So I will come back to this idea of the language, the importance of language, the words we use, because these words and the use of the English language to describe ourselves has also been the source of a lot of our undoing. Huh? Because when we say caste, we think that we've adopted this word from the Europeans. The Europeans brought this word from Spain, Portugal. The word castas implied a certain social stratification, okay, which was based on money, economic standards. When they came to India, they saw that acha, here also there is some kind of a social stratification. Therefore, they called it caste. Okay, but the fact is that in India, in Bharata, we had two kinds of systems that were running. There was the concept of a varna, and there is a concept of a jati. The varna, the origin of the varnashrama is there in the Vedas, in the Rig Veda, where they talk of the Purusha Sukta, which says that the supreme conscious being has the cosmic being, the head, which represents a function. The head became the Brahmana, but the head represents anything to do with thinking, the function of the head. The arms became the Kshatriya. The arms had to do with management, work, all of that. The procreatory part, the genitalia, became the Vaishyas. It was about production, creativity, production. And the feet became the Shudra, which was about service. It was about movement, moving a person around. Can you say my head is more important than my feet? Anybody? You cannot, because if you are headless, it doesn't make sense. Or if you are footless, the head, no matter how brilliant it is, will not be able to move anywhere. Right? So we see just from this design that there was no inherent hierarchy in that system. All the texts, including Manusmriti, the Bhagavad Gita, the 18th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita talks about it, the Manusmriti talks clearly about it, that the classification of an individual was in the Varna system was based on your guna and karma, your quality of personality, your temperament, and the work that you do. Okay. The other concept is jati. Where are you born? This got mixed up. Okay, so jati started becoming varna. So just because I'm born in a certain conditioning, in a certain milieu, suddenly I had to become only that. By social circumstances. It is also natural, you know, if you are in a doctor's family and all the time you grow up listening about medicine, the chances that you will become a doctor are higher than you becoming an artist or a teacher. So it was in that context that it tended to become a jati-based reality. Okay, but it is important to understand that the concept of the varna originally was about our inherent temperament and the function that we do. Alright, and this, what Sri Aurobindo takes it a step further. He says that, I will give you an example. So if you want to construct a house, you need people in society who will do the planning. That person is not going to construct the house. You need somebody else who will do the supervision. That's your Kshatriya. You need somebody who will go and buy the goods, who will do the thing. And there will be a fourth person who will build the house. Now, if you tell the person who can build the house, now you go and do the planning, you will not have a house. Right? So each section had its own role to play in the construction of the society. Sri Aurobindo brings in a very beautiful idea. He says that actually every individual is a representation of that Purusha. So every individual should have all those four characteristics. So when I am doing a work where I am asked to think, so as Rotaract, Tyagarajuji gives you an idea of plan for what you are going to do for your peers. At that time, you have to become the best Brahmana. You have to be able to use your head. Then he says, okay, now we are going to do this program, please organize. Everybody organize. At that time, we have to become the best Kshatriya. If he tells now organize and start doing this action, at that time, no, I'm going to sit and plan. The work will not happen. So you have to be able to act. Then supposing he says, now I want to decorate this whole place. We have to be able to discover the creativity within to be able to present it. Finally he says, now everybody is sat down, needs somebody to bring the tea and coffee to serve the guests. One has to become the best Shudra in order to serve. So the best individual is one who can incarnate all four within them depending on the requirement of the time and place. Alright? So the reason I know this is about Sanskrit, Swami Vivekananda says He says, you of the lower caste, I tell you, the only way you can improve your condition is to study Sanskrit. Because once you study Sanskrit, you are equal to the Brahmana. You know what that text is talking about. You will have the confidence to stand up for whatever is there. And if you are empowered with knowledge, so knowledge is power of every sort. So the more the NGOs can understand the importance of this language in empowering the people, first and foremost, just empowering them with the possibility of being, of understanding what was their role or what was their position in the layout of society as presented in this original culture. That is the most important thing. Okay, so once that happens, then that would give them the self-confidence to go and meet maybe even the urban people or whoever. So Sanskrita Bharati is one such organization that has been doing a lot of work at grassroots level in villages. And they've had phenomenal experiences where they said that by teaching Sanskrit, first and foremost, they saw that people who are coming there are initially very hesitant. And then slowly and slowly, as they start learning Sanskrit, it seems to do something to them. Swami Vivekananda continues. He says that Sanskrit and prestige go together in this country. Once you have, he says that the power of these sounds have the ability to give that individual that sense of confidence that they can then achieve anything. So he says, once you have that, none dare say anything to you. So when we talk of the prayojana of Sanskritam in the grassroots levels, the first and foremost reason why NGOs need to engage with Sanskrit at grassroots levels is to create a sense of empowerment and self-esteem in people. They are no less than anybody at the highest level. Second thing is that if one knows Sanskrit really well, first and foremost, it sharpens the mind in many, many ways. The sense of precision of pronunciation, the precision of grammar, the ability to think big, the access of knowledge that one has. All of these are factors that allow the self-confidence of an individual even to be not just in terms of a cultural value, but also in terms of what it does to the individual's own sense of well-being. All right? And the other reason why Sanskrit is very important for to take Sanskrit is that the regional languages are nurtured with a good knowledge of Sanskrit. In today's context, with the invasion of globalization of the world, we are even losing out on our mother tongues. We are more and more trying to imitate this Western culture, and we are trying to become more Anglo in everything that we do. But the fact is that the loss of our regional languages comes at the loss of our own cultural values and our own cultural knowledge traditions. So the knowledge of Sanskrit can serve to enrich the regional languages through vocabulary. That's the biggest thing really, through vocabulary. And also the confidence of being able to use those structures. Another thing that Sir had said was that if we can promote Sanskrit at grassroots levels, then it can serve as a very powerful tool for national integration. We had done a camp in 2001 in Delhi. We were 800 of us. Sanskrit Bharati had organized this. We were 800 of us from Kashmir to Kanyakumari, from all the way run of Kutch to the northeast, Arunachal. And the only language, common language that we had was Sanskrit. For 21 days, we had this fantastic experience of national integration, where we were eating Sanskrit, sleeping Sanskrit, breathing Sanskrit, talking Sanskrit, dreaming Sanskrit. But what we saw is that in reality, that was the only language that served to unite this entire landmass. Not just that, the Consul Generals yesterday were telling us, we had 4 of them. They were from Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia, and Sri Lanka. And all of them were telling us of how important Sanskrit is for the connection not just of India but also of the Southeast Asian regions. So if we promote Sanskrit in our country at the grassroots levels, it will not just make them connect to our own cultural basis, but also to feel a sense of connection with our neighboring countries. And if we have that sense of connection with our neighboring countries and they have a sense of connection with us, it only helps again to strengthen our internal and ties across boundaries, and also empower us by the very fact of having standing on the feet of our own, on the shoulders of our own forefathers. So I think these are some of the ways in which one can appreciate the importance of NGOs' roles in the promotion of the Sanskrit language. I think I have said enough and time is also up. No? Yes? So, if anybody has any question or some comment, I'd be happy to hear. But just maybe to tie it up once, we started with Anubandha Chatushtayam. So we talked of the Adhikari. Here the Adhikari are those, the grassroots level people whom the NGOs, whom the government systems don't necessarily reach. When we've talked about the NGOs, it is understood that the government need to do 10 times more. Okay, we've not even gone into that. But at least we can say that the action, the civil, what we say, civil society action, citizens' action is important in order to achieve big change. Because governments will come and go. But if people take it up, then that is something that will act like a tsunami and overrule many other things. Then no government, if the grassroots, if they stand up and say we want Sanskritam, there's no way that a government will ever be able to say no to that. And I can assure you that if we take up Sanskrit, the whole world will take it up. Because yoga is a world phenomenon today. Ayurveda is a world phenomenon today. So people who are studying Sanskrit and all can become literally teachers of the world in these knowledge traditions as well. So if you think that if I study Sanskrit, what will I do and all? I am a great example. My only passport to the world has been Sanskrit. My only passport to the world has been Sanskrit. So it has taken me to places and people would invite me only because I know Sanskrit, not anything else. So it is not just a gateway to the knowledge in the past, but it is one of the best bridges for a successful future ahead. Okay, so that is that. So we talked about Vishaya, which is Sanskrit, and why it has to be, and the promotion, the reason why Sanskrit needs to be done. I think I've established it quite convincingly, I hope, that the study of Sanskrit can really be that key of transformation that the society is waiting for the last 75 years. So maybe in the next 25 years, we can collectively achieve this magic together with your support. So this I tell you today, 25 years later, we'll meet again, and hopefully we'll meet in a country where Sanskrit is again the lingua franca of this country and of the world also. So it will be a language that will unite the world again. So let's hope for that. Thank you.
I request Dr. Sri Krishna sir to give vote of thanks.
I put it off. Please put it on.
On here.
I put it off, sorry.
President Tyagaraju, fellow Rotarians, friends, Professor Anuradha has dealt with Sanskrit and its importance in our daily life at length. It is very useful to us and it is very impressive. We thank you, madam, for your lecture. We have learned a lot. Thank you very much.
Then there is a token gift to madam. So there is a book. You may kindly show the book. And
This is the book by Nedumuri Antavargam is the name of the book. This is musings of a legendary musician. He is a South Indian musician, he is a great musician. This is being presented to us.
Thank you.
Avatya Prasishya.
अतः ओ Oh, can I sing a last song, please?
Sure.
Sorry, I might be breaking your protocols. But can I make you sing a song? Okay, we'll sing a song. It's a popular tune, but it's a Sanskrit with Sanskrit wording. Okay, so it goes like this. Vayam Sanskritam Pathama.
Vayam Sanskritam Patama.
Vayam Sanskritam Vadama.
Vayam Sanskritam Vadama.
Esha Bhasha.
Esha Bhasha.
Ativa Sarala.
Ativa Sarala.
O Bandhava.
O Bandhava.
Vada Vada Sanskrita Bhasha.
Vada Vada Sanskrita Bhasha.
O Bandhava.
O Bandhava.
Vada Vada Sanskrita Bhasha.
Vada Vada Sanskrita Bhasha.
Vadatu Vada Vada Sanskrita Bhasha.
Vada Vada Sanskrita Bhasha.
Speak and speak.
No,
Again and again.
no, let's try that. So, Vayam Sanskritam Vadama.
Vayam Sanskritam Vadama.
Vayam Sanskritam Pathama.
Vayam Sanskritam Patama.
Esha Bhasha.
Esha Bhasha.
This language. Pathama we read. Esha Bhasha, this language. Ativa Sarala.
Ativa Sarala.
O Bandhava.
O Bandhava.
Vada Vada Sanskrita Bhasha.
Vada Vada Sanskrita Bhasha.
Bhavet sa Bharata Bhasha.
Bhavet sa Bharata Bhasha.
Bhavet Vyavahari Bhasha.
Bhavet Vyavahari Bhasha.
Bhavet sa Vishwe Manya.
Bhavet sa Vishwe Manya.
Ubhrata.
Ubrata.
Bhavet sa.
Bhavet sa.
Bhavet sa Jagati Vandya Bhasha.
Bhavet sa Jagati Vandya Bhasha.
Asti Vishwe Eka Asha.
Asti Vishwe Eka Asha.
Esha Bhasha.
Esha Bhasha.
Ativa Sarala.
Ativa Sarala.
O Bandhava.
O Bandhava. Vada Vada Sanskrita Bhasha. Bandhava. Vada Vada Sanskrita Bhasha.
Vayam Sanskritam Pathama.
Vayam Sanskritam Patama.
Vayam Sanskritam Vadama.
Vayam Sanskritam Vadama.
Esha Bhasha.
Esha Bhasha. Ativa Sarala. O Bandhava. Vada Vada Sanskrita Bhasha. O Bandhava. Vada Vada Sanskrita Bhasha. O Bandhava. Vada Vada Sanskrita Bhasha.
Now, before we go to secretarial announcement, I have a small responsibility. See, today I have a reason to offer something into gratitude box. There are one or two reasons. One or two reasons में क्या है? One of the reasons is our dream project of giving power to the women, the underprivileged women. It has been implemented yesterday and today with CSR funding. And CSR funding also was proposed by Sunil ji. It was facilitated by past President Sudha. Today and yesterday he has done. He is going to do at least monthly one. So it is something to feel very good. I have another reason why I need to offer something in gratitude. Around last Wednesday, I requested Dr. Savita to propose to open a center of Indian knowledge systems in their college, SPAG. The same evening, I got a good news that she has been selected as one of the trainees for Indian knowledge systems by the college. The college was already in the thinking mode of that, and she was selected. It is such a, it's called serendipity. Means what we are thinking serendipity is, it is happening. So these are the two gratitude points. Third point I have. Third point is to invite Anuradha madam was a dream I was trying to raise funds for this. Now, without the need of raising funds, the thing has happened. The credit goes to Manpreet. Manpreet, he brought her for an official work with an Indonesian and other consulates. We have made best use of it. Our boss had to go, but we retained her. Today she has given 3 lectures. First lecture was actually organized by Dr. Deepika. She has been here whole day and she couldn't came back. That's a great thing. Then
The next lecture Dr. Deepika ji will be able to give because
yes,
he's heard
because
it
of
so many
Thursday her
times.
lecture is scheduled. In
The
the
next
same
thing on
seminar,
Sanskrit will be by
yes,
her.
about yoga she is going to talk addressing the lecturers of Shah and Anchor. It's another follow. Then another aspect is now this. It was facilitated by Manpreet and with hardly any expenditure we could make it, and this lecture plus 2 more
बाद में
lectures,
बताऊंगा।
everything. Anyway, I know the whole thing. Kitna expensive हुआ, क्या हुआ, everything is first time for me. So this is the thing. So for this, there's something to feel gratitude for this. Okay. One main thing I wanted to mention, we have actually planned to do IKS projects under Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. But we did not know how to do. There was no clue. Automatically the chance has come when Shah and Anchor Kutchi Engineering College requested us to become their official consultants. Our club is an official consultant for IKS. आज का जो seminar हुआ, everything was organized by our club. All the selection of speakers, selection of topics, everything, whole thing was done by our Rotary Club. It is something to feel happy. Then I promised last time in POCV, this year we should do consultancy to 2 colleges. So second college is on the way, I think, SPH. We will be consultant to them also. So thereby we will be fulfilling the goals of IKS in this year. Next year, Manpreet will take. Then over to
I would like to acknowledge the help of Miss Bhavana Ansari in my project, this project.
She, I think Kavita came.
Yeah, and Kavita Ram also had come.
Yes, excellent.
Bhavana Ansari did a lot of directing because couple of ladies I was not able to do direct.
I also feel a little bit of gratitude.
Great officer. Great officer. Then so let us present to Madam Radhika.
Thank you, President. Good evening, friends. Our next Rotary meeting will be on Tuesday, 17th of January. It will be an official club visit by our District Governor Sandeep Agarwala at the same venue. Details of the program will be conveyed on the group. And please mark your diaries. You all have to be present on 17th. Thank you.
And along with Rotary presidents, please note, Rotary presidents have to come. I will give you the exact timing. After 6:30, everything will happen. 6:30, if you are here, that's more than enough. Then we have today's statistics. Rotarians 12, speaker only 1, Dr. Anuradha. Protractors 14, then guests 4, then total 31.